Merrilee Rush, what a treat to meet you and to speak with you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. This is early morning for me, so I'm not quite all there.
What time is it?
Well, it's 4 in the afternoon, but my sleep schedule is completely different than everybody else's.
How come?
Because I can.
So
I knew a friend of mine, Howard Kalin from the Turtles.
Yeah.
He used to go to bed after the Today Show. And I thought that was really decadent. And then I started staying up late and I'm going, I can do this. I go to bed before the Today Show. I know. You
hang on a minute, but I mean, it's super interesting. So what time do you go to bed of a day?
Well, I start thinking about it at 4 a.m. and hopefully I shut the lights out by 6 a.m.
And how long do you stay up there? So you get up around 4 or 5 p.m.
I get my 8 hours in.
Right. Well, you're definitely
all my life I've been an entertainer, so when I would work, especially working night
the night shift.
You know, you get done at 2 a.m. Then you think about having something to eat, and then it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. And you've maintained that. How incredible. How does that work in a relationship? Does he do the same?
My husband's an entertainer also.
So you both keep the same hours?
Yeah, I haven't done anything for the last 2 years, but
nobody has
work. You know, because of the
pandemic, yeah.
Because of the pandemic, everything's been closed.
Yep.
Nothing. So I'm going to do a couple of dates in September. I'm doing a date in Texas. They're celebrating the Buddy Holly. They're celebrating Buddy
anniversary.
Holly.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's great. Great. Well, if I had have known that they were the hours you keep, I could have switched it up completely. It would have anyway. If we'd have known that.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry I got you out of bed early.
Oh, don't feel bad. I have to wear reading glasses to look at screens.
Same. We both got to that age.
Normally I don't wear glasses, but
no, but if you want to see the other person, I'm the same. I can't look at a computer without my glasses on anymore. It's just tragic.
Even my phone.
Not much to be said for getting older, is there?
No. And I just had my hip replaced. So
did I.
You did?
Yeah. I mean, mine's about 3 years old now. How long ago did you have yours done?
May 2nd, I had mine done.
And how are you doing with it?
I'm doing great.
Oh, that's good.
I'm doing great. Yeah.
The relief that you get after all the pain that I imagine you were suffering is phenomenal, isn't it?
Well, and then I got this knee. I don't think we'll ever be the same, but I'm used to showing dogs and raising litters, and I can't get on my knees now. So I bred my last litter 2 years ago, and I don't know, with a new new hip, I might be able to run around a ring, but I'm done. I'm over that.
Really? How long did you do that for?
From my line that are in the ring right now.
Right. And how long have you been breeding dogs for?
I've had Old English sheepdogs for 62 years.
Wow.
62 years. I've been pulling hair off my clothes and out of my food. And
I hear you. Well, that'll be a hard habit to break.
Oh, we still have 3
of your own.
We still have 3 on the farm.
Right. And of course you live on this.
I take my new hip out and walk around the farm with them.
Yeah, that's great. You and your hip go for a walk. I love it. So of course, when you talk about a farm, you still live. well, you live on what was your grandfather's property, isn't it? In Washington State.
Right. And during World War II, my dad was in England serving. So when I was born, I lived on this farm with my mom till my dad came home.
Wow, how amazing that you're back there.
Farm is, we bred Egyptian Arabian horses for 10 years, and then we stopped that before we got hurt too badly. And so then I concentrated on the dogs, and we've just made an estate out of this farm instead of horses making mud everywhere.
Yeah, they're a very expensive habit, aren't they, horses? I had a couple of them myself.
That was a bottomless money pit.
Yeah, I get it. So apart from dogs and horses, you've been working as an entertainer all these years.
Yes, from about 1985, I married my husband and stopped doing club work because at that point I had done 15 years in the clubs and became asthmatic. I was worn out. I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't function. So I stopped. And then in the 90s, I started doing oldies shows. You may call them nostalgia shows. I don't know.
They're my kind of shows.
Yeah, and the very last one I did a Bowser show. But before that, I was doing some shows called The Original Stars of American Bandstand. And it was Bobby V's sons that had this show. And it was just great. We worked mostly back east, but we had Chris Montez, Brian Hyland, the Shirelles, and the Chiffons.
Wow.
And me.
Yeah, awesome. Because of course, I mean, in the days when you had started out, they were the days of early bandstand, weren't they? And you did all of those TV shows back in the day.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I grew up coming home from school and turning on Philadelphia American Bandstand and dancing with my refrigerator to American Bandstand. But that was junior high school, and then around 1960, 60, we had a band called Merrilee and Her Men, and then we joined a rhythm and blues band because rhythm and blues was huge here. It was really a wonderful. It was a wonderful circuit of dance halls, and during that period, it was rhythm and blues. But then the Beatles came along,
right?
And they kind of destroyed the rhythm and blues period. So from rhythm and blues to R&B rock in 65 with Merrilee and the Turnabouts.
So, I mean, you were in, I've got so much I want to ask you. Female singers weren't popular at the time at all. It was predominantly a male industry, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How was it for you to be out front of a bunch of guys? And I believe you copped a bit of harassment in the day.
Well, my first husband was the band leader, so I didn't have to worry about, dealing with hiring and firing and the ugly part, lifting equipment and all of that. That was taken care of because the girl singer got to come in and just sing and play. I was a keyboard player.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, and I didn't know until I researched you, you were a classically trained pianist. You studied for 10 years.
Right. I was classically trained, which you know, it gave me sensibilities about music, a sensitivity, a good sense of timing and all of that. But as an example, my husband had like a month of lessons. He's from New Orleans and he can play anything. You name a tune, he can play it. He can figure it out. Because I was classically trained with structure, I didn't have that ability to just let it flow through my head onto my fingers. Where he is, I call it, well, I think he's a genius because he really is amazing, but he can play anything. And he has this beautiful ability to move transitions, you know, chord to chord, filler. It's, I wish I could have done that, but I didn't. So eventually he was hired for our band. We brought him from New Orleans and the rest is history. I've been with him ever since.
Oh, that's so nice. And it's so nice to have a partner, to have a husband in the same area as you doing the same thing, and somebody that you admire their work even better.
Oh, he dwarfs me. He's a great writer, player. He does it all. Singer, keyboard player. He does it all.
Really? Oh, I'll have to check him out.
That's and he puts up with he loves the dogs. He loves the dogs.
That's the most important part, huh?
That one.
So, I mean, at the time then when you had your first husband, you didn't have to worry about lifting and carrying, and you had the special treatment. But I mean, there must have been a lot of jealousy around at the time, given that you were being afforded that special treatment, was there?
You know, within the group, no, everybody was, we were just having a great time. Those were the best times, playing at teenage dances and for hundreds of kids a night, and everybody's up and dancing to your music. You don't have to entertain. I finally had to face my audience when Joe Guercio put together my first show for Vegas. And Joe Guercio was Elvis's conductor, arranger. He conducted at the Hilton. And he put together my first show, and he said, you got to get off your crutch. You got to stop. You got to get away from your crutch. Let somebody else play the piano, play the keyboards, get out front and confront your audience.
Right.
And which was, whoa.
Was that a challenge for you?
I did it. It was a process of just every night confronting the audience.
Yeah. Wow. And I bet that show in Vegas
you were just part of the experience. You know, you were sending it out, but you were part of that experience of the kids out there just dancing and having a great time. There was nothing like it. And then when I went in, I had to go into the clubs when the music scene changed here. I had to go into clubs, and I hated it. I don't drink, so being around a room full of people drinking, most of them behaved themselves, but they were. I remember playing this one room. It was a big dance room. It was alcohol. And they had Tequila Thursday. So we take a break. And so they play canned music, and this guy gets out and just starts dancing and just stripping. But that was, that was innocent. But then they really started cracking down on driving while drunk. So that really
cleaned it up a bit.
A lot of damage to the club scene here.
Yeah. Merrilee, did you always know that you were to be an entertainer? I mean, I guess you set out as a as a pianist, thinking in some shape or form you'd be an entertainer. But did you always know that singing would be part of your game?
No, no. I never planned on making this my career, but I had some friends who were singers that I backed up when we go play USO shows, talent shows, USO shows, special events. And I was the piano player, and they were getting all the kudos. So one of them went to audition for my first husband's band, and I was along with, and I love singing background. I mean, I didn't have a great talent for singing at the time, but I love singing harmony. Excuse me. And he hired me. Not my friend. He hired me.
Oh.
So, and he had a band of really good musicians. I mean, musicians.
Right.
And not long after that, they quit because I was just fluff. I was in my party dress up there singing in a microphone, and I was getting the attention, and
they didn't like it.
They were the musicians and they wanted more recognition, and I guess so that's when we put together a band called Merrilee and Her Men, and that lasted a couple years, and then we went into rhythm and blues band called Tiny Tony and the Statics, and Tony was a 300-pound black man and very entertaining. That was a really fun period because the music was so great.
Yeah. When people talk about the good old days of music, I guess that's what you're referring to. They've never been quite the same, have they?
No. No, a lot has changed. Although there are parts of genres that I really love, like My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade. Yeah. I've been singing that in my head for the last 5 days. I can't get it out of my head. And but there are pieces, here and there, you just go, oh my gosh. Eminem's, a lot of Eminem stuff I really like.
Yeah. So well, that's good to hear.
It's good in every kind of music.
Yeah. Well, good, bad, and indifferent, huh?
Oh man. I watch Saturday Night Live and I go, oh my God.
I hear you. Merrilee Rush, you
musical talent they have on Saturday Night Live, you just go, oh my God. If I just weren't underwear, I might have been able to.
Yeah, that's right. Things have changed a lot. Merrilee Rush, you are totally well known right around the world for that massive hit that you had. I can't believe it was in 1968. That's some time ago. I mean, Angel of the Morning lasted. It's still out there being played on radio, so it's really lasted more than anyone's lifetime. Can you tell us just how you came to record that song?
Well, the dance circuit up here, one of the acts that played this dance circuit in the Northwest was Paul Revere and the Raiders, and we became, friends. And this wonderful roadie that we had ultimately went to work for them, and they were doing a tour in the Deep South. And my roadie buddy suggested they put me on as an opening act, and so that's how that happened. I was an opening act for them on a southern tour in the Deep South.
Yeah.
And at the end of the tour, they ended up in Memphis, where they were cutting their Going to Memphis album, and so I was just there. So I did a demo for the producer, and he thought my voice was unique. So I went back a month later, and somebody walked in with a demo of Angel. And the demo was the writer, Chip Taylor.
And Chip Taylor, of course, is the younger brother of actor John Voight and
Right.
Angelina Jolie's uncle, right?
Yes. And he also wrote Wild Thing.
For the Trogs. Yeah.
Yeah. So the demo is just him and a guitar. And it's just awful. But I'm reading the lyrics and I'm going, oh my God. Nobody's sung about this like this before, because it was beautifully written about that subject. And it was just a basic, 3-chord progression, Louie Louie. Well, it was Wild Thing, that progression. And so the melody, the chord changes were accessible. The lyric was outstanding. And so we cut it. And the producer said, well, don't get discouraged. This is just your first record. And, we'll just keep plugging along and trying. And when it came out, it had smattering around the country, but then the manager at the time hired independent promo men. And independent promo men were the way to get your record played. And so Bell Records, I was on Bell, and they really didn't put out the money for independent promo men. They had their own, but so Jerry Williams hired independent promo men, and about May of that year, we got a big order out of St. Louis, and that's when it
off it went. Right. You talk about the lyrics being outstanding. I mean, when we were growing up and listening to that song, as a teenager myself, I had no idea what I was singing, walking down the road or humming in the car and everything. But you saying that it was actually really pertinent lyrics. It was about female empowerment.
Yeah, I met a gal who, back in junior high or high school, she and her friends wanted to perform that in their talent show. And the teacher said, no, you cannot do that song.
Why? Well, tell me about those lyrics, because it's, I've discovered since that it's about female empowerment and sexuality. Where?
Well, back then, I guess, and it wasn't a blatant lyric. There was nothing blatant about the topic. It was about doing married things before the wedding, like I say on stage, and just leaving in the morning. The topic was great, and the way he wrote it was so beautiful. Very sensitive about the topic.
Yeah, and things like that wouldn't have been discussed. There wouldn't have been suggestive stuff like that back in those days either. I mean, today that'd be no problem, but in 1968 there was a whole different story.
Right, and there were radio stations that would not play it,
because it would encourage women to do the wrong thing.
Yes. Right. Doing married things before the wedding. Oh, heavens.
Yet they were the days of female liberation. We were already burning our bras and
it was 1968.
Yeah.
Woodstock was the following year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was perfect for its time. Right when all that was happening, this record was perfect for its time.
It was a sensational record. It was number 7 in the US. It reached number 1 in 7 countries. It sold millions of records, and of course, it garnered you a Grammy. Tell us who was in that Grammy nomination category with you that year. Who'd you beat?
Who was on that?
Who did you beat to picking up that Grammy?
I didn't win the Grammy. I was in there. Dionne Warwick won the Grammy. Barbara Streisand was in there. I can't
Aretha
remember.
Franklin was there too, and Mary Hopkin for Those Were the Days. So
yeah,
it's pretty strong competition. I mean, you got the nomination amongst those girls. It was amazing.
Yeah, and when you think about, do you know the way to San Jose? I don't find that to be a long-lived song like Angel.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
Angel.
the way to San Jose. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice little song, but it's certainly not as profound as Angel. That's for sure. But
it was about performance. It was, it was about performance, and
it was probably political too. I mean, it's always been political.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Angel must have changed your life in a lot of different ways. Did it? How was life different for you after Angel?
Well, I'm from here, but when I went to LA, I got to do a lot of TV and meet a lot of people, a lot of stars, but it, I believe in contrasts to teach you what you want and what you don't want. And so I experienced a lot of things that made me positive that I wanted to remain living in the Northwest. LA was just a culture shock for me.
You're a country girl at heart.
I suppose it's like, also going to New York, but I wasn't, I did record in New York, but that was different. But working in LA and being there for an extended length of time, it was a culture shock. And it was the contrast that I knew I didn't want.
Oh, that was good to discover.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I absolutely know what you mean. You've got to see it and experience to know that that's not the way you want to live your life. So I guess what you're saying to me is that it really didn't change your life in as many ways as it could have.
No, it reaffirmed my way of life, because I was, I come home and I go take a writing lesson and perform for some teenagers, and life was good.
Is that a riding lesson, horse riding, or writing? What sort of, is it horse riding lesson or a songwriting lesson?
Horse riding lesson.
All right.
Yeah, I took hunt seat, saddle seat, which was park, and dressage.
Oh, gorgeous. Oh, I love it. Love it.
There's a contrast there, because when you take dressage or park, you're sitting to the trot.
Yeah.
And when you ride hunt seat, you're posting.
Yeah.
So you're not hurting your back.
Yeah.
And I had been involved in an accident and I had whiplash. I was going to the chiropractor every week, taking dressage and bouncing.
Oh.
And he said, you have to make a decision here, because every time you take a lesson, you throw your back out again. So park is not good.
Right.
Dressage.
And is better, not good. Merrilee, the song also appeared in a whole lot of movies, didn't it? It was in Jerry Maguire, and a few others as well. How did that feel for you, hearing your voice on an motion picture?
During that period when your record is climbing the charts, and it's very surreal, because you're standing back and watching this, but you don't really experience it. You don't feel a part of it. You're not experiencing it. You're watching it happen. But lately, it was featured on The Blacklist. It was played on 2 episodes of The Blacklist. And that's when, I have friends calling in going, wow, that was on the blacklist and it was featured. That really, I experienced that because we were watching the blacklist every week.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there it was.
Amazing. I mean, it's quite incredible. More than 50 years later, here it is. I mean, you would have never thought when you cut that record in Memphis in those days that you'd still be living it 50 something years later.
Yeah. And well, Juice Newton cut it in 85, I think. And so I don't want to be snippy, but every time my record is not played and hers is, I lose $10,000 if it's featured in a movie, because movies licensing.
Yeah. TV,
movies, that's where the money is, and that's why the music industry has changed so much now, because it's all about licensing. Because I mean, Spotify, you're not making any money on Spotify, or I mean, I get checks once in a while, yeah, but the percentage is so teeny tiny.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people say that. Merrilee Rush, I think a lot of people obviously know you for Angel of the Morning. What they may not know, though, is that you've released several singles after that. You did a cover of the Carole King song "Child of Mine." You did a Billy Joel song "She's Got Away," and in 1976 you released 3 singles. You've been really quite busy, haven't you?
Yeah, the Billy Joel song, I went to New York and I met with the producer, who I didn't end up with. I ended up with a different producer, but he played for me Billy Joel's Cold Spring Harbor. And not too many people knew of him at that point, but Cold Spring Harbor was his first album, and it had all this great music. And so I have ever since been a huge fan of Billy Joel. I love everything he's done. I think he's how can I compare him to? He's just America's songwriter.
Yeah. He is awesome. Does it surprise you that when you go out and play your oldies shows and the like, that audiences everywhere still want to hear you do Angel?
Oh, they sing along. Oh yeah. And you see what else? I was going to say that trip that I went on and met with that producer, I ended up with another producer, and he's the one who produced Child of Mine. And that came out on Scepter Records. Everybody was excited about it. And Dionne Warwick left the label, and she was the label. She was the label of Scepter.
Yeah.
And the label folded when she left, and along with my record, Child of Mine.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
So my recording career is sketchy, but then later and I've done a lot of spec stuff that was never released, but some wonderful recordings that I'm really proud of that never saw the light of day. But I did an album that was released for United Artists, and soon after I cut that, they sold out to EMI. But the producer, in recording, I never had a producer who saw me work. And I am a rock R&B performer.
Yeah.
And, they never saw me work. None of them.
Huh?
So
that's crazy.
After we cut the United Artists album, which had every great player in LA, we had Michelle Colombier doing the arrangements. We had the LA strings on the album. It was production wise, it was fabulous. But we put together a band to go out on the road, and then they pulled the support for that tour. But we did a showcase at the Troubadour where everybody from the label showed up.
The record was called That Kind of Woman, and when the writer played it for us in Memphis, we just thought it was a natural follow-up because of the lyric, because of the topic. But then again, we did not have the promotion, the independent promo people that were working on Angel. We didn't have that after that. And so it didn't do as well, but it was top 30.
Yeah. It sounds like there was a bit of disappointment around your career. It wasn't handled as well as it could have been a lot of the way through.
Oh gosh.
Is that true?
When you're used to being in control on stage, I mean, it's up to you. You're in control. In the recording industry, it's not so much, because like I was saying about the showcase that we did in LA, this fabulous album that we cut, we put a my style band together, and we showcased at the Troubadour. Everybody from the label was there, and after we finished, the producer came up and said, "My God, we've been cutting you all wrong." And that basically was the story of my recording career. You know, they thought, well, she's a ballad singer. Yeah, I do more.
You've still got the opportunity to do more. I mean, you did, as we talked about earlier, you did do a few other, you cut a few other tracks out there, and they re-released Angel not that long ago too. It was also featured in was it? No, a song that you did the psychedelic version of the Four Tops' Reach Out, and a cover of Burt Bacharach's What the World Needs Now. And that one was produced by Quincy Jones for you for the film Bob, Ted, Carol and Alice, right?
Right. It was on the album. It was not in the movie. I think Jackie DeShannon's version was probably in the movie. I can't even remember if I saw the movie, but but it was on the album.
I'm sure you saw the movie. Everyone saw that movie. So
I can't remember.
I get that too. It's again another factor of getting a bit older, isn't it? So much.
I can't remember.
It's a common cry. Yeah, totally.